Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We've got quite an important one I think this week because it's a box set. Yeah, I am doing a box set. This one I'm doing anyway. I am doing this, I am doing the projects. It's kind of obvious that I should be doing those ones. This is an important one. The Great Deceiver. In a sense it's less important because of what we've already heard, but a lot of that stuff was released quite a bit of time after this. Before this there was only USA and Earthbound. That was it. There was no other live stuff. You know, nothing by the 69 band for example. I mean, it just seems bizarre. And this was supposedly an eye-opener for people. It was my first introduction to this band live. I had the 3 albums and then I got this. And I think then the Night Watch came out and I got that as well. But to already know that band so well and then this to come out years later must have been a strange experience. You know, people didn't realise how good they were. There's a lot of great stuff in here. You've got 4 discs of stuff and loads of fantastic improvisations. Obviously you've got the obligatory book, etc. This is the original release of this, which I got in the mid-90s. I actually got it from the days when I actually used to go to London, to HMV in London. Like, it was a thing because it was at the time it was fantastic and it was had a very broad range of music in there and you could get things like this. Obviously HMV narrowed a bit after that and it all went to pot, etc. I hate going to London, but I used to love going to that HMV and I would go down with a fair amount of money I'd saved and spend it. So this was a good day when I got this one. So the question is, why was it released in '92? Apparently Fripp had been talking about releasing stuff from every era. In the 80s he was talking about that. But it wasn't until 1992 it happened. Why wasn't this released before? Well, I suspect contractual thing, and Fripp really didn't want EG to get these tapes. He still owns the tapes until it's released. He still gets the tapes. And also, obviously, Fripp's known for a person looking forward and looking onto the next thing, not looking back. So this is the first time we look back from our perspective. And it does not disappoint. Everything you need is here, as I said, really for this line. You don't really need any other live stuff from this band once you've got the Great Deceiver. The newer release actually has it in normal dual cases and there's just 2 volumes of 2 discs, which is fine. It's exactly the same as far as I know. It's interesting, I think Fripp celebrates the back catalogue from now on in a way maybe he didn't before. That's the way it feels anyway. And that's maybe that's surprising, but it's awesome because we get all this. And I think King Crimson became more self-referential as a result. You listen to the difference between like 3 of a Perfect Pair and Vroom. You can see how Vroom references other stuff and the 80s band and brings it into the 90s as well. So it's so successful in that sense. So what's on it? Well, some of it we've already talked about, so I don't need to talk about it again. But I've decided it's the Providence show, which is the thing on CD1 and CD2. June the 30th, 1974, so that was the next show. It is actually the penultimate show to the final big one. And it's a good one. We've also got the Glasgow Show, which I've mentioned before. There was when they recorded the 3 shows for Starless and Marble Black. That was the one that we didn't get. Sadly, we got the other 2, but not that one. There's also Penn State University. We have 4 tracks, 2 at the end of each disc 2 and 3, which is odd, and a Pittsburgh show on disc 3, so that's cool. CD4 is Toronto and Zurich, and we've heard those, so I'll be talking about the ones we haven't heard. I mean, that's good because it shows you the difference between 73 and 74, and there is a difference. In 74 they were heavier, and maybe Cross was drowned out some of the time a bit more. I say we've got Glasgow. Actually, the Night Watch, half of it is from Zurich because of recording technical problems, whatever it was. Interestingly, there's no Copenhagen 73, so Fripp must have realised that was releasable as a separate show as well, because you would include Starless and Bible Black on here, I would think, or maybe you wouldn't because you've already heard it. I don't know. Oh, and the Easy Money is really cool, and It does seem to me the intention was to release it. It wasn't that they just weren't going to put it on this one. So, disc 1 is the Providence show. Walk on No Pussyfooting. I know this show very well, possibly the most well. This and Night Watch are the ones I know the best. It's a real shock when Larks 2 kicks in. And it's strange it works so well as an opener. I think I said that last week. I'm going to say it. It's possible I say this several times about several different songs, but this is the best version by this band. It is very suited to the next 2 lineups as well, actually, so plus I've not heard the current band play either. That's the 7-piece. Track 3 is Lament. I'm going to say that's the best version of that as well, because I can. Track 4 is Exiles. Much the same, depends on Cross. I think Cross was better back in Europe 74, I think, and he was really sort of going for it at that point, and he's not here, maybe. But I've said this, but the album version really doesn't do it justice, so any live version of Exiles, they're all great, and they're all better than the album version, I think. Then there's a Fripp announcement. It's not listed, and it's a shame because it's a good one. We get the Good Evening Hippies. Introduces himself as Chuckles Fripp, as he's known in the trade. And he says they're going to do a song we've been working on for some time. It's about the 7 stages of consciousness. It's called Voyage to the Centre of the Cosmos. And of course it's improvisation, he's talking nonsense, it's brilliant. The improvisation, they've called it Voyage to the Centre of the Cosmos, because Fripp named it before they played it. And a funky jam starts. A bit like the early improvs actually, so it's a bit like tapestry and that kind of stuff. Not amazing, but pretty cool. You've got some wailing guitar and mellotron and violin for ages and ages. Not as long as it was earlier on in the lineup, but a long time it goes on. It gets louder and quieter and whatever. Conversely, and perhaps surprisingly, next track is Easy Money. It's a killer Easy Money, it's a really good one. There's a funny thing happens in the first verse where Fripp's not playing anything and John Wenton's singing, and then he does this hilarious, I've got to try and do it, so it's just sort of a kind of thing at the end of the verse, and it makes Wenton laugh, and that's fantastic, and I think that loosens them up a bit, and they really play fantastic middle sections. Probably, again, I'll say it, best middle section of Easy Money there, other than what I heard in 2015 live, but that I would say that. Then we have another improvisation. It is Providence. Maybe Starless and Bubble Black is the best improvisation by this lineup, but maybe Providence is second. And here we get to hear what happened next. You know, after expecting Starless to start, not much. And obviously the edit was in the right place and it fitted into Starless perfectly. So Red is the perfect album in so many ways. And again, I've said this before, but particularly on this one, Cross is the one who leads the band here. Cross is the one who is so crucial to that piece of music, who's supposed to be out on a limb and drowned out by the rest of them. It's wonderful. So much of it is due to him, by the sounds of things. It's funny how often the audio document doesn't match the mythology of a band. Zappa once said that the music will tell the story better than anything written, and there it is. Does suffering make good music? Because it does seem that Cross wasn't happy at this point, and sadly I think it's probably true. In so many ways suffering has created good music. It's unfortunately true in this case. Never mind. Track 8 is Fracture. Yes, it's Fracture. There it is. Track 9 is Starless. Really good version. I think it got better as it went along. So I think this is the best, probably the best one. Let's say this is the best one. There's one more to come, but we'll talk about that next week. Sadly, that's the end of disc 1. The show doesn't fit on one disc, because obviously when they design CDs, they deliberately design them to not quite be long enough to fit a concert on there, because they hate you. So disc 2 starts with the rest of the show, unfortunately, and we've got 21st Century Schizoid Man. This is the same version that is on USA. So we didn't get the Ashby Park one, and as I said, I think this is the best one by this lineup as well. So yeah, the Providence show, highly rated. There's also the track Walk Off from Pussyfooting, where they play No Pussyfooting at the end of the concert as well, so they did record the whole thing for once without tapes running out. And there you go. Then we have the Glasgow Show from '73, and there is a bit of a... I think this does the Glasgow Show a disservice, because you've got such a strong show from '74, and '74 is heavier. Glasgow doesn't sound as good, whereas actually it's just different in that they just weren't as heavy at that point. I really like the Glasgow Show, but I'd rather listen to a complete version of it rather than this little edit of it, which is slightly annoying. It is on the Starless box set, and it is also on for download as well. If you want to download it, I recommend the Glasgow Show. It is a great show, and I really like this one. This is my favourite out of the 3 they recorded for Starless and Bubble Black. The opening improvisation is called Shark's Lungs in Lemsip. Interestingly, it doesn't say Improv Shark's Lungs in Lemsip, it just says Shark's Lungs in Lemsip. It'd be interesting if they fixed that and actually says Improv on the later release of the separate discs. Let me know if it does. Then we have Larks, Tongues in Aspic Part 1. We haven't had many Larks, Tongues in Aspic Part 1s. There aren't that many live versions of it, interestingly. But there you go. I think it loses something without Muir. It's the one song where the best version still seems to be the album version. There is a version, obviously there's the soundboard from Guildford 72, but obviously it's heavily distorted, so it can't be the best version in that sense. And this is not as good as the album version, I think. It's interesting how Shark's Lungs in Lemsip could have led into Dr. Diamond as well. I think they did play Larks Tongues Part 1 in Copenhagen and it wasn't fit on the disc. Or, well, or it was lost, and they couldn't actually confirm that they did play it. I think maybe it's. I don't think I get the impression it's not on any bootlegs either, so we don't really know. Then we've got Book of Saturday. Been a long time. Great song. There it is. Always the same, obviously, but there it is. Originally called Daily Games. Easy Money. It's not very heavy, but the middle section is fantastic and it stretches out. It's kind of the opposite of Copenhagen, where it's really quite short, but it's quite the verse sections are really good. I really like that version. Then we've got an improvisation, not labelled as improvisation because it is Will Let You Know, which was on Starless and Black. We've got some harmonics, and Bill doesn't come in for ages. And supposedly when the rhythm section come in, they come in the wrong places apparently. So John and Bill decided the downbeat was in a different place, and it sounds like they're being really proggy, but actually they're just out of time. But it works. It's really good. It's kind of humorous as well. Maybe those later improvisations got a bit serious, and obviously they are fantastic and everything, but maybe there's a humour to it I like. The Night Watch here, great version. I think this is better than the Copenhagen version, strangely, because this is actually an edit. The second half is actually Zurich, the Zurich show. And we've got another improvisation, Tight Scrummy, like a funky groove, and it's Bill's metronome thing, the thing he does, which is really cool. I love when he does that. And again, it gives it a different flavour to the previous improvisation. Then we have track 10 is Pizza Theme. Remember they did play Pizza Theme, only on the guitar, into Cat Food. And I love Cat Food. They only played it a couple of times actually, but I love Cat Food by this lineup. I think it suits Wenton's voice really well, and without the mental piano, that's good as well. And that's all we've got at that show. But it's a great show. I recommend getting the whole show personally. There you go. The end of the disc is actually Penn State University, and we've got 2 tracks. We've actually got 4 tracks from this show altogether. The end of the next disc, there's 2 tracks on there as well. So we've got Easy Money. We've only got the first half of Easy Money though, because it seems Easy Money goes into an improvisation, or maybe that they've named the improvisation, which was actually the middle section of Easy Money. I'm not sure. Maybe they did reprise Easy Money up to it. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I did moan about not having the reprise of Easy Money on USA, but here, maybe because of what happens in the improvisation, I don't mind so much. Really busy verse with Bill. Bill's doing loads of stuff going on. One Fripp's very dissonant. One bit it sounds like he's tuning his guitar. I don't think he's tuning his guitar. I think he's just being really dissonant. Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if it's good, it's good, isn't it? You know. Then we've got improvisation, not labelled as improvisation. It is for you, but not for us. And it goes really quiet. Some really cool bits, and it sort of peters out, sadly. I don't know if maybe in the show it petered out and then they just didn't bother going back into Easy Money. It just happened that way. So then we've got the end of disc 3 is the other 2 tracks. One of the tracks is actually an applause and announcement. It's the Fripp announcement thing, and he does a similar thing to what he did in another show where he said he's quoting someone because he's not very good at announcements. And it's basically those that don't like it get lost, and those that do like it joke thing. Then we have an improvisation called Is There Life Out There, which is from the announcement that something Fripp said. You got some real clattering and clunky bass. It's almost Big Ben. Ding, 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 ding. And the sort of distortion kicks in and lots of noodling. It's very familiar from this lineup, that sound. Like Tapestry, etc. I probably wouldn't have chosen that one to go on this album, interestingly. It's not bad, obviously, it's all fantastic, but I would have chosen, there's the stuff that we don't have on here that is wonderful. There's a really good bit, it goes down just to bass, really quiet bass, so it's Wenton on his own. You don't hear that very often. It's usually Wenton and Bill flattening everybody. And you've got this like stop-start Mellotron thing happening, and then the bass and drums come in, and it's almost the Dr. Diamond theme, so again it sounds like they're trying to play Dr. Diamond but not actually doing it. Then they just go back into the normal jam thing again. Maybe Dr. Diamond came next, I don't know, but there you go. So that's the end of that show. The other show is Pittsburgh, and that's disc 3, so we've got an edit of the Pittsburgh show. It could be complete because it starts with Walk On and ends with Larks Tongues Part 2. But if it was quite a short show. This is the final soundboard we're doing. There's only one show to do after this, and that's Central Park, which is a bootleg, with Walk On Pussyfooting. Track 2 is Great Deceiver. I'm glad I got a modern stereo, because without the bass, it wouldn't make any sense. It's just Fripp going. You need the bass to play the riff. Does it work live? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's meant to be like that. I don't know. It needs to be so tight, and it's very difficult to get it exactly right. I'm not convinced by Fripp's contribution on this particular performance. It is nice and off kilter. Wenton doesn't sound 100% either, to start with. That's interesting. Track 3, Improv, Bartley Butsford. They seem to have renamed band members, and it's interesting, at the end of this disc, which is actually the end of the Penn State University show, there's a little bit of extra, it's like a surprise, a missing track after the gap. Another Fripp announcement, which I suspect is from Pittsburgh, because he says something slightly strange, introducing a violinist, Daniel Dust, and the improvisations seem to be named Daniel Dust and Bartley Butsford, so I suspect they're silly names from band members. And he makes some comment about if he falls over we will kick him, and then we're going to try and get the mellotrons within a quarter tone of each other, and then this is Lament. So I suspect that bit at the end of the disc is actually from something cut out of this show. The audience are shouting stuff as well, which is really annoying. I can't quite hear what they're saying, and it's the pretty stuff but it's scary, flute stuff, and the vibes tinkling, that kind of thing. Track 4 is Exiles, it's another version of Exiles. Track 5 is Daniel Dust, which is the other improvisation. Well, actually it's the second improvisation. And again it's subdued stuff, so maybe they were tired at this particular show, but it's really good, so you know, it doesn't matter, does it? Not now. Track 6 is The Night Watch, it's another version of Night Watch. And then they play Dr. Diamond. Now I think this is probably a better version. I bet I've already said there's another version which is the best version. I think there's a heavy version in Zurich, but this is actually the better version. I think perhaps playing it later on in the set was a good idea. It's a less familiar song, they haven't defined it completely. It came a bit later in the set, which is a shame because it's a great opener. There it is, Dr. Diamond. Then we got Starless. Remember, it's the violin theme, played on violin, not on guitar, because it's written by Cross, of course. This is the one where I thought Fripp kind of almost blew the quiet bit before the ending. And it's interesting listening to it again, it's not anything like as much of a mess up as I thought it was. It's a tiny bit wobbly, but not really. It's interesting how perceptions change, with familiarity. Anything different is good, because you've heard something over and over again. Wow, they're doing something different there. It could be they're just messed up sometimes, you know, maybe. Another improvisation, Wilton Carpet. Classic Fripp stuff, you know, the sustain, evil stuff. Very atonal, but really good. They keep it going, which is impressive, and it kind of moves between silly and really good. Which brings us to track 10, which is the Talking Drum. Now, actually, you know, having gone through all these albums, you realise there's not that many versions of this, so this is welcome. It's always good. Obviously, taking us into Larks Aspic Part 2, which is abridged, actually. And I can understand that we didn't really need it again, and obviously that being abridged allowed time for those bits of Penn State University at the end of the disc. So that's disc 3. The last disc is 4 tracks from Toronto and 8 tracks from Zurich, and interestingly, it ends with the Talking Drum. So it's never resolved, so that's kind of cool. So there we go, folks. That is the Great Deceiver box set. That and Night Watch are the ones, really. If you've got Great Deceiver already, really, you've got what you need. If there are any differences on the later release of the separate discs just in the dual cases, let me know. I'm not aware of there being any differences, but let me know. And we will see you next week, or I will see you next week, for Central Park. We made it. The last show.